In this video, I'll share with you the best multi-chart setup for trading on any time frame. I'll share how to set this up and actually some tips and advice on using it. One thing I'll mention as well is I was starting my scalp training, and one thing in that, and I say this in a lot of other videos as well, is that you should always be keeping in mind the larger time frames. In scalping, what you're trying to be in a trade for 1 to 4 hours, right? And you're looking to get out of that trade quick. But one thing you should always keep in mind is the larger time frames. So using a setup like this, if you have the ability, it's easy and simple to see multiple time frames, how they look, in how that asset looks on multiple time frames at a quick glance. Okay, so what are we looking at here? Well, we're looking at gas BTC, and this is using TradingView, and you can easily set this up by going over here to the top right, and then you can click on just this here, and then you're seeing just one chart set up, okay? And we're looking at the daily. Or I can go here and I can split it in force, right? And to me, this is the best way to set this up. You want the daily here and the 4 hour over here. So this is the 4 hour candles. This is the daily. And then the 1 hour. And then whatever time frame you're trading on or you're looking for entries. So for instance, a lot of times for scalping, I'll use the 5 minute. Other times, maybe I might use the 15 minutes. It really depends on the particular asset that I'm trading and the moves of that asset. But why I like this is because at a glance, let's just go back to the 5 minutes here. And I did just enter a scalp trade here on gas here on this retracement here. It looks like it had a wave up and it might have another wave down. And if it does go past here, I potentially might add to the position. I'll have to see here as price actually unfolds. So what I like about this though is that I'm trading off the 5 minute, right? But at a glance, I can see, okay, well here's where we're at in the 4 hour. Here's where we're at in the 1 hour. Here's where we're at in the daily, right? And I can see at a glance how individual traders that will trade off this time frame would see the price action, would see whether or not there's strength in this asset, would see whether or not it's a good entry, right? So on the 1 hour, let's just look at the 1 hour for a second, and let me make it larger because I know it's hard to see. On the 1 hour here, or on the day here, on the 1 hour, right? It's having a retracement down, and this market is trained to buy the dip, right? So there's a high likelihood that most likely people will be buying this dip, okay? So on the 1 hour, it's looking like a good buy signal for buying the dip, right? It might cross this whole support or resistance zone, right? That's what we're expecting. If we throw in some moving averages on here, right? You'll see that it's crossing a lot of different moving averages. So it'll start signaling people that are trading off moving averages. If we look at the day, and of course you can do this setup by just changing the time frame real quickly, right? But what I really like about this setup, and if you have the ability to do it, and I believe to do this you have to have the paid account for TradingView to have this type of setup, is that I don't have to move time frames. I can see this at a glance. And when you're scalping especially, this is really important that you typically, if you're looking to make an entry, you want to see where you're at in the overall trends, right? So it's real easy to set up. All you have to do is like you just set up the 4 chart setups here, and then whatever time frames you want, you just go here. So let's say that I didn't want this to be the 1 hour. I wanted it to be the 2 hour. I just changed this to 2 hours. And then now it would be the 2 hour time frame. And this will change with whatever we're trading. So if we change this, the asset, you'll see everything else will change as well. The other nice thing that you can do here is that you can add indicators to individual time frames. So you'll see here on the 5 minute, the Bollinger Bands here are on the 5 minute, but they're not on the other time frames. I can add them there if I want to, but they're on the 5 minute time frame. So this gives you a lot of flexibility to have different indicators, to see the overall picture of where that asset's at, right? The other thing I really like about this is that, let's say that you're over here. If I click here, it will move the chart everywhere. Sometimes it moves a little bit weird on the smaller time frame. So let me do 15-minute. It will move the chart to that section automatically. So if I go here to the end, you'll see it'll move all 4 charts automatically. I believe that's a setting here. It's one of these settings, which is whether or not time is actually the same. And then it has a crosshair as well. This is the other thing I really like about this. This just a minor thing, but it's easily overlooked, is that you'll notice here as I move this on the daily, right? See how I move my mouse? And you look at the other charts, it's showing me that price action on the other charts, right? So this is helpful like on something like this where maybe you want to say, okay, well, where are we at? Where is this move? Like here, if we're looking at the 15-minute, where is this move on the overall hour? Well, you can kind of look at that anyways, but now you see the precise area right here just by watching kind of where the crosshairs move, right? And it shows you on the 4-hour as well. So if you have the screen real estate to do this, if you have the upgraded version of TradingView, this to me makes TradingView is a great system. I'm using it more than Coinigy because I don't believe Coinigy has these abilities to have multi-charts. So I think that I'm using TradingView a lot more just because Coinigy just doesn't have the depth of features that TradingView does. The other thing that I use Coinigy for, and I know sometimes I go off on tangents, is that Coinigy is the best for going through a whole market. And what do I mean by that? Well, if I go to BTC for Binance here and type BTC here, I can go through the whole market on, I do this every now and then, on the daily, and just go through and just look and see what the dailies look like on all the whole market. And yeah, I can get this by going to other websites, but I like looking at charts. So for instance, AMB is having a retracement here, right? So I might put an alert here to say that, hey, it's having a daily retracement. It might find support in this range, right? For people that like the cup and handle, right? It's looking like it's making a cup and handle on the daily, right? So this might be a potential good entry to go long, right? Completely outside of what we were talking about here. But you can't get the same view in Coinigy. It's also a pain in TradingView. I haven't found an easy way to go to asset. We're seeing a lot of these patterns now, aren't we? Here in ARN, for instance, we're seeing that we had a run and then retracement. Of course, this is playing out across a lot of the market, right? And if you're watching this video in a timely manner, a lot of these are hitting a retracement zone that are looking good to go long for the next leg up, with still a good potential long-term uptrend. If we go to the weekly here, for instance, this week, right, had a up weeks and retracements, right? But if it does stop in this range, it's still good for a long-term trend, right? So if it does stop in this end. But once again, this is why I had to change that, right? Here, I could, if I wanted to, if I'm trading things that have longer time frames already traded, I could put the weekly here, and now I can see the weekly, right? I mean, this is the other thing. If you're doing this, if you're trading longer term trends, well, we can put the weekly here, we can put the daily here, right? And then you're looking for more confirmations here. We're looking for the 4-hour, and then maybe we're doing our entries on the 1 hour, right? So we're looking for longer term swing traders are trading the 4 hours, right? Typically with the Ichimoku. And then here you're looking at the daily, and then here you're looking at the overall weekly trend, right? So we're hitting a key area that you would expect a retracement to potentially find a turnaround point here on the weekly, right? The daily is looking about the same. You know, usually there's a retracement of 50% to 2/3 to 1/3, right? Those are the typical retracements. And then if we're looking as a longer term trader, right, we have our 1 hour here for our entry signals. So we would enter wherever, either we would be a breakout trader and we'd be looking to enter on a breakout, right? Which the true breakout would be on this would most likely be here. This would be the true breakout, right? So this setup works if you're scalping, if you're doing shorter term swings, if you're doing longer term swings, if you're doing long term trades. This type of setup works very well. And yes, of course, you can go to one chart. I get that, right? And change the time frame. It's just, I can tell you right now, with scalping, this is extremely helpful. With scalping, having these multiple time frames in one view, you can instantly see right away where you're at in 4 different trends, 4 different time frames, 4 different entries. And you want to look at these from the perspective of a trader that looks that specifically trades off these time frames, right? Some traders only trade off 4 hours. Some traders trade off the daily. I don't know why it doesn't look good. Some traders trade off, right, the 4 hour, the 1 hour. You want to look at these different aspects. This gives you just another tool set, an easier tool set to become a better trader, to really make more gains in this market. That's all for this video. Down below, you'll find links to the Discord group, to the primer document, to tools that I use. Feel free to leave a comment or question or any feedback down below, and definitely hit subscribe. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.